Welcome back to the Workplace Shift powered by tostep, the podcast for leaders navigating what's next in the world of work. In our last episode, we talked about the human skills needed in the age of AI. Today, we flip the lens. Before you can use AI, how do you make sure your team and your organization is actually ready? Imagine this, your team gets asked to start exploring AI, but your data is chaotic and nobody knows where to start. That's not an AI problem, that's a clarity problem. So in this episode, we are unpacking what readiness really means, how to cut through the noise, and how to lead your team forward towards practical and sustainable change.
Welcome to a new episode of the Workplace Shift. Maybe you know the scenario. Your boss comes and says, let's do more with AI. We're now doing everything with AI. And then you look at your colleagues and like, okay, what exactly do we do now? Is this a scenario that sounds familiar to you, Stefan?
It does, and it's very common now that if it's not attacked with AI or with something like this, that it's not done, it's not seen as important, right? I think this is one of the issues we have around the current strategic initiatives going on.
So what can I really do now? Am I just using AI and like a magic wand, it erases all my problems? Is this how it works?
No, I guess AI won't save a struggling team, but it can supercharge a strong one. So when you already when you already have a struggling team and you have data chaos, for example, then it will not help you. What I want to talk about today with you is a little bit of demystification of the data problem to get these discussions rolling in the team.
So you mean shit in, shit out, basically, or frankly speaking?
It's like this. And in a role of a team lead or a project lead, you don't have to be a data expert, but you need to ask the right questions, right? You need to look at what do we need to establish before AI can really help us. So you don't need to be a data expert, but you need to know where to look for and what to look for.
So what do I do if I'm in this position? My boss comes and says, hey, you need to do more with AI. What do I do?
What do you do? I guess you look at what is the strategy, what are they currently working on, what does the leadership team want, and what is my team currently doing, right? So I would look at basically the ideas which are flowing around, what can we improve, what can we not improve, etc. What do we need to stop doing, and what can we automate? Yeah.
So basically you first look at, okay, what do I have to do? Am I set up for this? Is my team on board? Do they all know their roles, what they have to do? And then we figure out how AI can help us.
Yeah, I guess we're going very practical. If you go and sit together with your team and maybe a partnering team, and you do a brainstorming session, and then you say, we have to do more with AI. People will start to fall back and say, okay, what is AI doing? They look at ChatGPT and they think, they can promise me new things. They can summarize content, etc. pp. So they will abstract the capabilities of AI, and then they will find the use cases, right? So, but maybe it's a good way to start to say, where do we have a lack of data to make decisions, or where's the data not good, right?
Mm-hmm. So currently, all of this AI stuff is coming from the tech department because it's a new technology. But people cannot handle it that way. That's what I'm hearing. If they're just presented with a new technology, what do they have to figure out to make it work and make use of it?
It's coming from the tech department, but I think it's also coming from the investors, because it's an outside hype, right? And if you cannot demonstrate that you use AI in your company, you basically say, I will not be competitive in 5 to 10 years, right? So it's maybe to look at, what is my current business model? What am I currently creating? And then transfer to like an enhanced version, a new business model with AI, right? So to give you this, to give you I always think about Uber when I think about this. So Uber started as a taxi company, right? And they started to collect data, And at some point they said, oh, we have so much data about routes, we have data about what customers want, maybe they even have data when customers leave the house, when they come back, etc. pp. So they decided to open a new service. They decided to build Uber Eats, Uber Foods, however it was called in the past, right? So they they gather more data, they gather more information around their customers, and then in the next step they offer and they create Uber Freight. Do you know Uber Freight?
No, what is that?
So Uber Freight is doing like freight management, like helping trucks to calculate the right routes, right? So as a truck driver, you can log in and you can get for your route, you can get the best version, etc. And you can use it as a company as well to do freight management, container shipping, etc. pp. So what you see here is that they use technology. That's not necessarily AI. That's they leverage their data to create a new business model, right? So they created a new business model and they created a new service. So on the leadership team level and on a team level, I guess that's where we have to think. What is our customer problems we currently solve? And what could be future customer problems we can solve? Does it make sense? Or is it too abstract?
So we're
Maybe it's
talking
abstract.
about what data do I already have? What gold am I sitting on, and how can I create value out of it? Is that what you see?
Yes, exactly. So because you know what you have and you know where there's a mess,
Yeah.
hopefully, right? So you will start with this and you dive deep, and then you still have to go, what is a company currently doing? Like in the life science industry, we're producing medication. In the agriculture industry, we're producing plant protection, for example. What do we need to do to make this quicker and more pleasant for our customer? So it's a little bit of design thinking too, right? Emphasizing with the customer, etc. Maybe even go out and do these kind of thinking process.
Can AI support me with that?
It's a good question. I've not thought about it like this. You mean like doing the surveys and stuff like this?
So in my mind, I would totally ChatGPT that.
Okay.
I would ask ChatGPT, hey, I'm collecting these types of data. This is my business model. What could I do with the data? Think creatively. And I would give it some examples from going from the Uber example that you just told me so that it thinks in the right directive.
Yeah. Yeah, it's maybe ChatGPT, but it's also, if you want to use AI, train more with your historical data. Train more with there's a nice term called the data moat. It's the data you're sitting on, which basically your treasure. So everything which is public is available to all the AI models. Let's say it like this, right? So what is the data you generate to create these kind of insights? And yes, you can use, of course, you can use for formulating the questions, etc. pp. You can use it, but you need to talk to real customers there. You need to find out what is their struggles, what is their emotion. So when you go about design thinking, you would observe them. You have customer interviews. You can leverage AI to prepare it. Maybe you can even create prototype solutions where they say, "Oh yeah, that's what I need." And then you go into this. You go down this route, right?
So now that we talked about boundaries where
Mm.
AI is not as useful as we thought, are there other areas where you would say, no, we need human interaction there?
Yeah, I guess it's really about making this connect. As you said, human interaction, but also human connection, right? So, if you have the customers, consumers or customers, you should really use your human being to emphasize with them, and then maybe feed the data and the models, right? You talk to them directly, but yeah, I think this is where the human being should be going in.
Have you seen this crazy video about two AI phone agents talking to each other and realizing, oh, there's an AI at the other end, and then they start in like minion speak, or I don't know how to call it, but basically they start in text speak communicating because that's faster, and they were created this way. So spooky. and
Yeah.
and sometimes when I'm calling help desks and I realize, the other person isn't so empathetic. I think
Hmm.
I'm talking to a robot. I feel a bit like being played, actually. It
Yeah.
doesn't feel good to me.
Yeah.
What about you? Is it just a step that we have to go through? is the future all AI? Can I just say to Siri that she has to call the help desk for me? Is that maybe the next step?
I would ask myself, what is the reason for calling and not asking like a chatbot or FAQ, right? You're asking
Yeah.
about it's a deep human need for a connection, and this is a really good point to say, like, here's where we really have to be there as a human and have to work with them, right? So example, yesterday I called the embassy to get information for a friend, and all the information was available on a website. So why did I call? I wanted to ensure myself that the information on the website is true. So it was about trust. I have another human being on the phone, and they basically said, "Oh, you just checked the website." I was like, "Okay, good. I could have checked the website, but I still called to reinsure myself, right?" So even in this process, we need this human connection at some point.
Yeah.
Still,
So it's trust, and in who we place trust. Yeah.
that is also a good point. It's trust. I don't trust what is on the homepage. Is the data source? It's from it was from the official government side, right? But my also why I called is to verify if what is on the in the homepage is correct. And this is and trust is a very interesting component also in the AI models, etc. pp, right? Ask ChatGPT or Gemini one question, they will give you a different result like the second time or the third time you ask, right? And this is a good learning for you if you look at building products for your customer and data treatment. We have this in the project now, right? So we're connecting some data source to AI, and we figured they make summaries of documents, but we created a permission model where they should not even have access. So in the testing, we found out they hallucinate based on their knowledge base, right? So they don't even have access. They hallucinate. So I don't trust it anymore. So
Yeah.
so trust on data and trust that what is there will become more important also for your customers and for yourself. So I call to reinsure myself. If I could be like, if I could ask, for example, I need to bring a proof of bank for the government, a proof of income, right? So on the homepage, you have like proof of income. But you know how it is. You go to a government office and you bring kind of your bank receipt or your bank account statement and they say, oh, it's not enough. You have to come again. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
right? So if I could have a question, have a ChatGPT or whatever, like a model to ask, what can I bring? Is this sufficient? Maybe I would not call. Maybe if they give me like a verified check. So what I'm saying is you need to build data source for your client as well and for your internal clients as well. Because if you use AI for yourself, for example, to go through regulations, you have 500 regulations and you will ask to act on it. You need to trust it. So trust of data is a very big point.
Yeah. So what can teams now really do?
Mm. What teams can really do is, as I said, they need to identify where is their kind of potential in data, right? And there's a lot of data, a lot of unstructured data around. What is the current market needs? They need to talk to their management. They need to talk to people more in the periphery, right? They need to talk what is currently going on, and then depends on which team it is, right? They can, for example, if it's a marketing team, they want to know about customer feedback. They can look at the customer feedback forms or customer feedback data, and then they need to get acquainted with the data. Because if they don't get acquainted with the data, they cannot use it. So that's what teams can already do without being too technical. If there's a 9 in the customer feedback, what does it mean? If there's a 9 in the customer feedback, but in the content there's something wrong, what does it mean for us? How do we change our processes, etc. pp. So get acquainted with the data. Make sure that you have a data landscape ready, and you don't have to go into much detail. But what kind of data potentials do we have across the company, right? And then second, how can we increase trust with this data?
So what I'm hearing is be curious. Be curious what this new technology can offer you, and be curious how you can use it for reaching your own goals or the goals of the company and getting there faster. Be curious about what you already see, what is there. Be curious what is really the goal that you have in front of you and how you can get there. So curiosity is at the center of it.
Curiosity, yes. And another point you can use as a guidepost is what decisions are actually made at the moment? How are they supported? Are they maybe supported by manually collecting, by talking to people, or are they really already automated, right? So what are the decision points, which bring me to exactly what you said, like, where do we want to be next? You see, it's enabling people in the teams also at some point to be more kind of in the driver's seat with the company, right? Because if you act in isolation, it will maybe not help the whole company, especially in big companies.
So I think what I heard, it's still crucial that we align between the teams, that we are moving together in one direction and not create like 10 teams that are really self-organized and work with AI to reach their goals. But it's more to create unison and create an alignment between all the teams, move strongly together in one direction and be more than the sum of each of our parts.
Yeah, and I even saw this in one of the customers' kind of analysis of where they stand at the moment, is that we are very fragmented across the organization, right? So everyone works on their little AI use case. Maybe there's a strategic initiative a lot of people work on, but it's very fragmented. And as you said, there's no alignment somehow, right? And that's maybe normal in the beginning, right? Because you start to use it, and otherwise you will not get forward. But at some point, there needs to be alignment between each other, right? I always feel myself like, imagine you would be a person and you had a problem at hand to solve. You would naturally do the following: you look at what's available in the intranet, you talk to people who have the knowledge, right? You have different sources. You maybe look out externally, you ask friends, you maybe ask your work colleagues, right? And this is how I imagine AI needs to do it, or a technical solution needs to do it. And it's illusional to think they can solve this for us right now, because they don't even have the data points. So if you think about it like this, like, what is our biggest data headaches we have at the moment? How would I use it if I would be if I had access to all the resources in the company, no access restrictions, I can talk to anyone? What intelligence would I gather, right? And then define one process on where you could improve decision making. One process, and start there, and then start a conversation. And what do we need to fix before we can really go into there? What data sources do we need to fix? And I'm not saying it's easier. It's a starting point. It will be processes, it will be iterations, but we need to start somewhere.
Yep, that absolutely makes sense. All right. Thank you so much for sharing, Stefan. Thanks for the glimpse. So
And
don't panic, be
I apologize.
curious.
It was a little bit rocky road in the beginning, because it's so difficult for me to explain it as well. Like, because inherently I feel we know that data is important, right? We know that we need to go into the grids, and I haven't even gone to technical details. Like, we need to normalize data, we need to get like, we need to know what's the final version. That's the technical details, right? But before we go into technical details, there needs to be a mindset shift in the organization, that we cannot start with AI before we start with the data, right?
Yeah.
And it's not waterfall, it's iterative, but we have to start somewhere.
Start somewhere, clean it up, and then move from there and clean up the other places.
Yeah, exactly. It sometimes when we talk, I feel it sounds like waterfall again. Like, oh, we have to clean up all the data. No. It's like, as I said, use case per use case, or process by process. But the mindset shift, as we know, right? The mindset shift is the most important thing. Trial and error.
And let's be clear, there is not in every data there is value. So
No,
also have the
exactly.
courage to throw away old data and stuff that no longer serves you. It's not like every data is gold.
No, exactly. And even if you have too much data, then you don't know. It's like a forest without a way. You have a forest, it's beautiful, but I cannot leverage it. So you have to extract it somehow. Yeah.
And a really expensive forest, by the way, because you have to pay for all of the storage that you need for your data.
Yeah, exactly. And you have this case at the moment. I know it. And I know you. I know I'm very radical, but sometimes I feel, let's delete everything and start fresh. And if you say this, people like, oh no, oh my god, I cannot do this. There's gold in this. Yeah, okay, I got it. There is gold, but maybe we need to have a strategy first before. But anyway, it's a balance act, right?
It is.
Some data you can also not delete through to compliance. I know, but you know what I mean.
All
So yeah,
right.
call to action for everyone is really, again, where is the biggest data headaches we're already aware of? Second, what can we do as a team to improve that, and what process, client-facing process, optimally adding value, can we now improve? Not even thinking about future and change of business model like in the beginning of it. What can we improve now? Because we need to build the skill set to work with this, to be quicker, right? It cannot be like 6 months process. It needs to be 1 to 2 months process.
Okay, that sounds good.
Thank you so much,
Thanks
Karen.
you.
Thank you for listening in to the Workplace Shift powered by tostep. Here's what we believe. AI won't save a struggling team, but it can supercharge a strong one. And strength starts with clarity. The best thing you can do as a leader right now, slow down just enough to ask, which dataset do we need to sort through first? Thank you for tuning in to the Workplace Shift, and share this episode with someone who is feeling the AI pressure. And we'll see you next time.